I'm Daniel. I'm in my late 20s, living in a small apartment just outside Chicago with the woman I thought I'd marry one day. Her name is Jenna. When we first met, she was loud in a fun way. Big laugh, always the center of attention. I was quieter, steadier, the guy who remembered little things and showed up on time. She used to say that's what she loved about me. Daniel, you're my calm in the chaos, she'd say, lying with her head on my chest while we watched some show in the background. I need that. I need you. Back then, I believed her. Over time, small things started to change. At first, it was money talk. She wanted nicer dinners, more expensive gifts, weekend trips, like everyone else. Her phone was filled with influencers talking about standards and men who provide. She started sending me screenshots of rings, handbags, and hotel rooms with rose petals on the bed. I didn't think much of it at first. We all like nice things, right? But then every date turned into a comparison. Do you know what Tyler did for his girlfriend? She'd say while we sat in a mid-range restaurant I could actually afford. Private boat. Private. For her birthday. And you brought me here. I'd look at the menu and do mental math, trying to stay under what I knew I could pay without stressing over rent later. I tried to laugh it off. Yeah, well, Tyler also lives with his parents, I'd say. Different situation. She rolled her eyes so hard it was almost theatrical. Excuses. That's what I hear. Just excuses. Still, we had good days. Movie nights. Inside jokes. Late-night drives where she sang along to old songs and reached across to squeeze my hand. Those moments were real. That's what kept me there. Then came that night. It was a Thursday. I remember because I had work early the next morning, and I'd already been half asleep on the couch while she scrolled on her phone. The TV was on low. The room was dark, just the glow from the screen and her phone lighting her face. Daniel, she said suddenly. I opened my eyes. Yeah. She turned toward me and just stared for a moment. Her eyes were calm, almost too calm. There was no shouting yet, no drama. Just this heavy, focused stare that made the air in the room feel different. Be loyal to me, she said slowly. Obey me. Spend on me. Every dollar, every raise, every bonus, it should show up in my life. In what you buy for me. In how you treat me. I thought she was joking at first. I let out a quiet laugh. Okay, that's intense. Where is this coming from? She didn't laugh. If you don't, she continued, her voice flat, I'll replace you with a man who knows my worth. Someone who understands a woman like me deserves everything. You will never get a wife like me. Without me, your life, your career, your future, all of it will sink. You'll be nothing. The way she spoke, it sounded rehearsed. Like something she'd repeated in her head many times before saying out loud. I pushed myself up on the couch. Jenna, what are you talking about? I'm trying. You know my situation. I pay the rent, I split bills, and I take you out as much as I can. I'm doing my best here. She scoffed, a sharp, quick sound. Your best? Do you know what Lauren's husband did last month? New car. Designer bag. Spa day. He worships her. He knows how lucky he is. You? You're cheap. Useless. A burden I have to drag behind me. That one stung. Not just because of the words, but because she said them like they were simple facts. Like she was reading a grocery list. I tried to steady myself. I'm not your enemy, Jenna. We're supposed to be on the same side. She leaned in closer, her voice dropping to a low whisper. Remember this. Men like you are replaceable. Don't ever forget that. I didn't argue after that. Not because I agreed, but because something inside me went very, very quiet. It felt like a switch had been flipped. I sat there, staring at the TV without really seeing it, while she went back to her phone like nothing had happened. Minutes later, her phone lit up with a notification. I wasn't trying to snoop. The screen just faced me for once. Usually, she kept it face down. A name popped up that I didn't recognize and a preview of a message. Same time tomorrow? Last night was insane. Jenna moved fast, flipping the phone over, acting like nothing happened. But that one little glimpse was enough. I didn't say a word. Not that night. I just sat there, silent, while the woman who called me replaceable messaged someone else only a few feet away from me. And in that quiet, a different kind of thought began to grow. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there with my eyes open, staring at the ceiling while Jenna scrolled beside me, laughing faintly at something on her phone. Every few seconds, the screen lit up. Different notifications. Same name. Same tone. Inside jokes I wasn't part of. I didn't ask her about it. I didn't touch her. I didn't even turn toward her. I just stayed still, letting every word she said earlier replay in my mind. Replaceable. Cheap. Useless. For a long time, I thought love meant patience. Understanding. Giving people room to calm down. But this wasn't a bad mood. It wasn't stressful. It wasn't a random fight. She meant every word. She'd been thinking it for a while. And that message I saw wasn't some harmless chat. Something was happening behind my back. She eventually fell asleep, her phone clutched in her hand. I waited until her breathing settled, then quietly slipped out of bed. I didn't touch her phone. I didn't need to. I already knew enough. Instead, I sat on the couch in the dark, hands clasped together, trying to process everything. I could have confronted her right then. I could have demanded answers. But what would that do? She'd lie. She'd flip it back on me. She'd call me paranoid or insecure. No. If she wanted to call me replaceable, then I needed to stop acting like a desperate man holding on for her approval. I needed information. And control. The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened. She hummed while making coffee, scrolling through her phone, smiling at it. She didn't even look at me when she said, "Don't forget, I want to go out Saturday. Somewhere nice. No cheap restaurants." I nodded calmly. "Sure." She paused for a second, surprised I didn't argue, then shrugged and kept scrolling. On my way out, I glanced at the table near the door. Her wallet sat open. A membership card from a new gym. She never mentioned joining one, but I remembered her saying she worked out late 2 nights that week. I didn't say anything. I just walked out and headed to my car. On the drive, I made a decision. If she wanted to treat me like a bank, a servant, a backup plan, then I would stop giving her power. I started by reviewing everything we shared. Our lease, bills, accounts, and plans. We weren't married. Nothing was legally binding. Most of the apartment costs were in my name. That gave me leverage. Over the next couple of days, Jenna got even bolder. She took longer workout sessions. She hid her phone when I walked into the room. She dressed up to run errands, but came back smelling like cologne that wasn't mine. When I asked how her day was, she answered with one-word replies. Cold. Dismissive. Like she'd already moved on in her head. One afternoon, she stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her hair, and said casually, "You know, some women have men who take them shopping every weekend. I deserve that kind of life." I looked at her reflection. And what do those men get in return? She didn't even blink. They get to have a woman everyone envies. That was the moment I stopped feeling sad. I stopped feeling confused. Something in me steadied. She wasn't lost or confused. She wasn't hurt or insecure. She knew exactly what she was doing. And she thought I would never walk away. She thought I needed her more than she needed me. That belief was about to become her biggest mistake. Because quiet doesn't always mean weak. Sometimes quiet means planning. By the end of that week, Jenna's behavior wasn't subtle anymore. She stopped sitting next to me on the couch. She spent more time getting ready to go out. Her phone never left her hand. She laughed at messages I couldn't see. And every time I tried to talk to her, she acted like I was interrupting something more important. But I stayed calm. I didn't argue. I didn't confront her. I didn't ask where she was going or who she was with. Silence made her confident. And confidence made her careless. Saturday night, she walked into the living room in a dress I'd never seen. High heels. Full makeup. Hair done like she was heading to some event. She looked at me with this bored expression and said, "I'm going out with friends. Don't wait up." I nodded. "Have fun." She blinked, almost confused by how relaxed I was. Usually, I'd ask questions or try to talk. But I just gave her a small smile and went back to what I was doing. She grabbed her purse and rushed out, barely closing the door behind her. As soon as she left, I stood up and walked to the window. Her ride pulled up, a black sedan. She opened the door and climbed in, but before she shut it, I saw her lean forward and kiss the driver. Not on the cheek. That confirmed everything I needed. Still, I didn't react. I didn't call her. I didn't text her. I sat down and wrote a list. What was in my name, what wasn't, what she relied on, what I could change. I wasn't planning something dramatic or loud. I wasn't looking for a scene. I wanted something clean, controlled, final. Around midnight, Jenna came home. She was smiling, flushed, and humming some song. I watched her toss her heels aside and check her phone again, typing fast. She didn't notice me watching from the hallway. She didn't say hello. She didn't ask how my night was. She just walked into the bedroom and shut the door. That was the night I stopped feeling attached to her. The next morning, I started making moves. I called the leasing office and asked about removing someone from the unit. Since the lease was under my name only, it was possible. I opened a new personal account and moved my savings there. I updated my emergency contacts and passwords. I packed a small box of my important things and kept it hidden in my car. I didn't do any of this with anger. I did it with clarity. Jenna still thought she was in control, and she acted like it. On Sunday afternoon, she walked into the kitchen and said, "We're going out on Friday. Somewhere expensive. I want a special night." She said it like it was an order, not a plan. I nodded. "Friday. Sure." She barely looked at me. "Good. And don't embarrass me this time." She walked away, smiling at her phone, typing fast. I caught a glimpse of the lock screen, another selfie of her, but this time, someone else's hand was on her waist. That's when the idea hit me. If Friday was going to be a special night for her, then I'd make sure it became unforgettable, but not in the way she imagined. I spent the next few days behaving normally. I cooked dinner. I laughed at her comments. I acted like everything was fine. And the more normal I acted, the more relaxed she became. She thought I was clueless. She thought she'd won. But Friday was coming. And by the time that night ended, Jenna would lose more than she ever expected. Not because I yelled, but because I finally understood something she never believed. Friday arrived faster than I expected. Jenna spent most of the day getting ready. She played loud music, tried on different outfits, took mirror photos, and kept texting someone with this excited smile. She didn't hide it anymore. She didn't think she needed to. Around 6, she walked into the living room in a sparkling dress and said, "I hope you made reservations somewhere good. I'm not wasting my night." I stood up, grabbed my jacket, and nodded. "Yeah, everything's set." She didn't thank me. She barely looked at me. She just checked her phone one more time and walked ahead like she was starring in her own movie. We drove downtown. She spent the whole ride texting, laughing under her breath, tapping her nails against her screen. When we pulled up to a fancy restaurant, she gave me a satisfied smile, like she'd trained me into doing what she wanted. Inside, she ordered the most expensive items without hesitation. Appetizers, wine, dessert, things she never cared about before. She kept taking photos of herself and the table, but never once included me. At one point, she leaned across the table and said, "See, this is how I should be treated." I didn't argue. I just listened. Halfway through the meal, she excused herself to the restroom, but she didn't go there. I saw her step outside instead, phone in hand, talking to someone. Her voice sounded cheerful, like she couldn't wait to see whoever was on the other end. I knew what was happening. She planned to meet him after the dinner I paid for. When she came back, she sat down with a relaxed grin. "Let's wrap this up. I'm tired." I nodded and asked for the check. When the bill arrived, I calmly handed over my card. She looked pleased, like she'd proven something. But she didn't know that earlier that day, I'd already withdrawn myself from every shared financial link. My accounts were separated. The apartment was legally mine. She had no access to anything I owned. And I'd spoken to the leasing office that morning about her removal notice. After dinner, we walked back to the car. Jenna checked her phone again and said, "Drop me near Lakeside. I'm meeting friends." I didn't react. I simply drove toward the spot she named. When we stopped, she opened the door without a word. But before she stepped out, I said, "Hey." She paused, annoyed. "What?" I looked straight ahead, not at her. "Starting tomorrow, don't come back to the apartment." She laughed like I'd told a bad joke. "Very funny." "It's not a joke," I said quietly. "Your things will be packed and waiting with the front office." Her smile faded a little. "You don't get to decide that." I already did. She stared at me, confused, like she wasn't sure what to say. She'd gotten so used to control that the idea of losing it didn't register right away. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed. A name popped up, the same name I'd seen that first night. She lit up instantly and stepped out of the car. She didn't look back. She didn't ask anything. She just walked toward a dark SUV waiting near the curb and climbed inside. I watched the door close and pulled away without hesitation. I didn't text her. I didn't call her. I didn't explain anything further. When I reached the apartment, I packed her clothes, shoes, makeup, and accessories into boxes. No damage and drama, just clean separation. I left the boxes with the front office and signed the removal paperwork. By morning, her key would stop working. For the first time in months, the apartment felt quiet in a good way. I sat on the couch, took a deep breath, and realized I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't waiting for answers and hoping she'd change. I was done. And while Jenna was out chasing whatever she thought was better, her chapter in my life was already closed. The next morning was quiet, peaceful in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. No comments and demands, just silence. I made coffee, sat by the window, and finally felt like I could think clearly. Around noon, my phone buzzed. Jenna, why is my key not working?" I didn't reply. A minute later, "Jenna, where are my things?" Again, no reply. Then she called. I let it ring. She called again, and again. Eventually, she left a short message, her voice sharp and annoyed. "Open the door. I don't have time for this." She still thought this was some argument she could win with attitude. A few minutes later, the front office called to confirm she'd picked up her boxes. I thanked them and hung up. That was it. She was officially out of my space, my routine, my life. I didn't block her number. I just chose not to answer. That was my revenge, removal. No fight, no attention. 3 days passed. On the 4th day, she showed up outside the building. I saw her from the lobby window, hair messy, makeup smudged, wearing the same jacket she'd left in that Friday night. She looked restless, pacing, checking her phone over and over. After a few minutes, she texted again. "Jenna, can we talk? It's important." I didn't respond. Later that evening, I heard from a mutual acquaintance. Someone who didn't even know what happened between us. He mentioned, casually, that the guy Jenna had been seeing wasn't single. He wasn't planning a future with her. He wasn't offering her some glamorous life. He'd been using her for quick meetups and rides. And once she tried to act serious, he stopped replying altogether. Changed his number. Blocked her. She'd left believing she was stepping into something better. Instead, she'd been dropped without a second thought. The same word she once threw at me, replaceable, had landed right back on her. A day later, she tried again. Jenna, I think we misunderstood each other. We should talk face to face. Then, Jenna, I miss you. Then, Jenna, please, just 5 minutes. That last message didn't sound angry or powerful. It sounded desperate. But I didn't respond. I wasn't cold. I wasn't celebrating. I just didn't feel anything for her anymore. The person I loved wasn't real. She existed only in the early memories, before the demands, before the comparisons, before the lies. The real Jenna had shown herself clearly. A week passed. No more calls and messages. She disappeared from my life as quickly as she'd stormed through it. I started rebuilding my routines, simple things. Cooking my own meals. Going for walks. Visiting old friends I'd stopped seeing because she always complained. My days felt lighter. My head felt clearer. I didn't rush to fill the space she left. I just lived. One night, while cleaning out the apartment, I found a photo of us from the early days, both smiling, arms around each other, no tension. I looked at it for a moment, then placed it in a drawer. Not out of anger, just closure. Jenna once said my life would collapse without her. But the opposite happened. My life finally started. And her story? Well, from everything I've heard, she's trying to find another upgrade. Someone to fund her lifestyle, someone to spoil her. But people talk. Word spreads. And now most see her for what she is.